The air here hums with the ozone tang of overdriven capacitors, mingling with the ghost of stale coffee and hot vinyl. Dust motes dance in the single neon tube's sickly glow, casting long shadows across dead server racks that stand like forgotten monoliths in this reclaimed substation. The war surplus transmitter pulses a steady rhythm, a stubborn heartbeat against the city's ceaseless thrum, broadcasting from a place where 1966 still breathes, and 2036 already listens.
Black Star Pirate Radio.
In Kirribilli, we're reading 58 degrees Fahrenheit with clear. Wind check, west-southwest at 14 miles an hour. The tension is clear. How do you build a resilient inner architecture when a plague is ravaging your community, and the systems meant to protect you remain silent?
The grim consequence for the LGBTQ+ community and people with HIV in the 1980s was an epidemic escalating into a death sentence, with over 100,000 Americans dead by 1990. The Food and Drug Administration's slow approval process, sometimes taking a decade for new drugs like AZT, meant thousands were dying preventable deaths while pharmaceutical companies maintained high prices.
This systemic neglect birthed a furious tenderness. Groups like ACT UP, formed in 1987, turned abstract political indifference into concrete action. Their iconic "silence equals death" slogan, often plastered on pink triangles, wasn't just protest art, it was a defiant reappropriation of symbols, transforming shame into a call for justice. It connected individuals experiencing isolation into a powerful collective narrative, echoing ancient communal mourning rituals, but amplified for a modern crisis.
Patching in a caller, the critical thinker. You're on the signal.
My uncle died in '89. He was one of those who waited. What's the cost of that kind of governmental inertia? Really, beyond the individual lives, what's the societal cost of ignoring a whole segment of your population when they're dying? Who pays for that kind of slow-motion violence?
You're hitting on the core structural cost, beyond the tragic individual lives lost. The cost is a profound erosion of civic trust, a fracturing of the social contract. The chosen next move by activists wasn't just to mourn, but to build. They established mutual aid networks, created direct action protocols, and even engaged in treatment education to empower patients. An alternative path would have been isolated grief and individual lobbying, which historically had minimal impact. Instead, they asserted collective self-worth, forcing a recalibration of public health policy and proving that rage, tempered with love, can architect change. This blueprint for collective action against systemic neglect resonates today as we see other communities fighting for their dignity. Static lifts for half a breath, the vinyl crackles under the needle, the line is live. Moving from the battle for health to the fight for fair workplaces, we turn our attention to California's legal system, where corporate power is being tested.
Debrief like designers, log the friction, script a small rule bend, and try it live.
The tension here is between the sleek, forward-facing image of a tech titan and the deeply entrenched historical patterns of workplace discrimination.
This is about the California Department of Civil Rights, formerly suing Tesla, alleging a racially segregated workplace at its Fremont factory. The agency has amassed hundreds of complaints from black workers detailing racial slurs, swastikas, racist graffiti in restrooms, and retaliation for speaking out since 2015. Tesla tried to compel arbitration for individual claims and dismiss the lawsuit, but a state appeals court recently defeated that move, allowing the CRD's systemic action to proceed.
It's a clash between the promise of a Silicon Valley utopia and the persistent shadow of industrial-era racial divides. The image of a futuristic gigafactory producing electric vehicles clashes starkly with allegations of a Jim Crow-era atmosphere described by some employees. This isn't just about a few bad actors, it speaks to a cultural architecture within the company that permitted such conditions, echoing the historical struggles of diverse workers in American factories from the auto industry's inception.
So Tesla, this company that's supposed to be innovating the future, is accused of having racist conditions. What's the actual financial cost for them if this lawsuit goes through? And what's the benefit for the workers and for society if California wins?
The potential cost for Tesla could be significant, possibly hundreds of millions in penalties and mandated operational changes, as suggested by similar past settlements. The chosen next move, allowing the CRD lawsuit to proceed, exposes Tesla to this full legal and reputational consequence. An alternative for Tesla could have been to proactively settle, implement comprehensive, independently audited anti-discrimination policies, and offer robust restorative justice programs for affected employees long before this lawsuit reached court. The benefit for employees is validation and justice, building a clearer path towards workplaces that prioritize dignity over profit margins. From corporate accountability, we pivot to the political arena in Australia, where familiar voices are stirring the pot, challenging established leadership dynamics. Here, the tension arises from a former leader publicly undermining current party management, blurring the lines between internal counsel and populist revolt. That's sharp discernment, caller. The stated benefit is rallying the Conservative base, but the underlying dynamic is a power play. The chosen next move by Abbott is public disruption, potentially fracturing party unity and diverting focus from policy to internal feuding. An alternative path for Abbott would be to offer strategic advice directly to Dutton and Taylor behind closed doors, strengthening the party from within rather than broadcasting discontent. The price is paid by the Liberal Party's coherence, and ultimately by the electorate who witness internal squabbles instead of clear, unified opposition policy. This kind of rhetoric tests the very resilience of our civic architectures.
Black Star Pirate Radio.
Continue the signal at TogeeVision.com. Tune in, Sparks and Stories, Gig Passport.